David goes to get the chest of God. David consulted with all of his leaders, the commanders of thousands and of hundreds. Then David addressed the entire assembly of Israel, "If it seems right to you, and it is God's will, let's invite all our relatives wherever they are throughout Israel, along with their relatives, including their priests and Levites from their cities and surrounding pastures, to join us. And let's bring the chest of our God back, the chest that was out of sight, out of mind during the days of Saul." The entire assembly of Israel agreed, everybody agreed that it was the right thing to do. So David gathered all Israel together, from Egypt's pond of Horus in the southwest to the Pass of Hamath in the northeast, to go and get the chest of God from Kiriath Jearim. Then David and all Israel went to Baalah, Kiriath Jearim, in Judah to bring back the chest of God, the Cherubim-Throne-of-God, where God's name is invoked. They moved the chest of God on a brand new cart from the house of Abinadab with Uzzah and Ahio in charge. In procession with the chest of God, David and all Israel worshipped exuberantly in song and dance, with a marching band of all kinds of instruments. When they were at the threshing floor of Kidon, the oxen stumbled and Uzzah grabbed the chest to keep it from falling off. God erupted in anger against Uzzah and killed him because he grabbed the chest. He died on the spot, in the presence of God. David lost his temper, angry because God exploded against Uzzah. The place is still called Perez Uzzah, exploded Uzzah. David was terrified of God that day. He said, "How can I possibly continue this parade with the chest of God?" So David called off the parade of the chest to the city of David. Instead he stored it in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. The chest of God was in storage in the house of Obed-Edom for 3 months. God blessed the family of Obed-Edom and everything around him. David builds. King Hiram of Tyre sent an envoy to David, along with cedar lumber, masons, and carpenters to build him a royal palace. Then David knew for sure that God had confirmed him as king over Israel, because of the rising reputation that God was giving his kingdom for the benefit of his people Israel. David married more wives and had more children in Jerusalem. His children born in Jerusalem were Shammua, Shobab, Nathan, Solomon, Ibhar, Elishua, Elpalet, Nogah, Nepheg, Japhiah, Elishama, Beliada, and Eliphelet. The minute the Philistines heard that David had been made king over a united Israel, they went out in force to capture David. When David got the report, he marched out to confront them. On their way, the Philistines stopped off to plunder the valley of Rephaim. David prayed to God, "Is this the right time to attack the Philistines? Will you give me the victory?" God answered, "Attack, I'll give you the victory." David attacked at Baal-perazim and slaughtered them. David said, "God exploded my enemies, as water explodes from a burst pipe." That's how the place got its name, Baal-perazim, Baal explosion. The Philistines left their gods behind and David ordered that they be burned up. And then the Philistines were back at it again, plundering in the valley. David again prayed to God. God answered, "This time don't attack head-on, circle around and come at them out of the balsam grove. When you hear a sound like shuffling feet in the tops of the balsams, attack. God will be 2 steps ahead of you, slaughtering the Philistines." David did exactly as God commanded, slaughtering Philistines all the way from Gibeon to Gezer. David was soon famous all over the place, far and near, and God put the fear of God into the godless nations. David worships. After David built houses for himself in the city of David, he cleared a place for the chest and pitched a tent for it. Then David gave orders, "No one carries the chest of God except the Levites." God designated them and them only to carry the chest of God and be available full-time for service in the work of worship. David then called everyone in Israel to assemble in Jerusalem to bring up the chest of God to its specially prepared place. David also called in the family of Aaron and the Levites. From the family of Kohath, Uriel the head with 120 relatives, from the family of Merari, Asaiah the head with 220 relatives, from the family of Gershon, Joel the head with 130 relatives, from the family of Elizaphan, Shemaiah the head with 200 relatives, from the family of Hebron. Eliel the head with 80 relatives, from the family of Uzziel, Abinadab the head with 112 relatives. Then David called in Zadok and Abiathar the priests, and Uriel, Asaiah, Joel, Shemaiah, Eliel, and Abinadab the Levites. He said, "You are responsible for the Levitical families, now consecrate yourselves, both you and your relatives, and bring up the chest of the God of Israel to the place I have set aside for it." The first time we did this, you Levites did not carry it properly, and God exploded in anger at us because we didn't make proper preparation and follow instructions. So the priests and Levites consecrated themselves to bring up the chest of the God of Israel. The Levites carried the chest of God exactly as Moses, instructed by God, commanded, carried it with poles on their shoulders, careful not to touch it with their hands. David ordered the heads of the Levites to assign their relatives to sing in the choir, accompanied by a well-equipped marching band, and fill the air with joyful sound. The Levites assigned Heman son of Joel, and from his family, Asaph son of Berechiah, then Ethan son of Kishiah from the family of Merari, and after them in the second rank their brothers Zechariah, Jaziel, Shemiramoth, Jehiel, Uni, Eliab, Benaiah, Maaseiah, Mattithiah, Eliphelehu, Minea, Obed-Edom, and Jeiel as security guards. The members of the choir and marching band were, Heman, Asaph, and Ethan with bronze cymbals, Zechariah, Aziel, Shemiramoth, Jehiel, Uni, Eliab, Maaseiah, and Benaiah with lyres carrying the melody, Mattithiah, Eliphelehu, Minea, Obed-Edom, Jeiel. And Azachiah with harps filling in the harmony. Kenaniah, the Levite in charge of music, a very gifted musician, was music director. Berechiah and Elkanah were porters for the chest. The priests Shebaniah, Joshaphat, Nethanel, Amasai, Zechariah, Benaiah, and Eliezer blew the trumpets before the chest of God. Obed-Edom and Jehiel were also porters for the chest. Now they were ready. David, the elders of Israel, and the commanders of thousands started out to get the chest of the covenant of God and bring it up from the house of Obed-Edom. And they went rejoicing. Because God helped the Levites, strengthening them as they carried the chest of the covenant of God, they paused to worship by sacrificing 7 bulls and 7 rams. They were all dressed in elegant linen, David, the Levites carrying the chest, the choir and band, and Kenaniah who was directing the music. David also wore a linen prayer shawl, called an ephod. On they came, all Israel on parade bringing up the chest of the covenant of God, shouting and cheering, playing every kind of brass and percussion and string instrument. When the chest of the covenant of God entered the city of David, Michal, Saul's daughter, was watching from a window. When she saw King David dancing ecstatically she was filled with contempt.